You can't handle the truth.
Your man's Chuck Morgan cut back the PDF from, you know, people were saying 360 questions to ask a Nuwaupian. Now it's 101 questions to ask a Nuwaupian. He couldn't complete a whole 360 questions. So they had to cut it back to
As you can see, Nuwaupianism.com is not absolute Bible truth. 360 questions to ask Nuwaupians is not 101 questions to ask Nuwaupians, written by Brother Joshua. I applaud the brother in his efforts to challenge the cult. However, my website and his book are not the same. So if you go to my website, Nuwaupianism.com, you'll see that we have various categories from the leader, the holy tablets, contradictions and plagiarisms, all the way down to right knowledge gone wrong. So I would suggest the brother take the time to do some research, because clearly he got this one all wrong.
I'm holding in my hand costs $15,000 to unseal, right? It's cost $15,000 to unseal, and unilaterally between myself and Pa Nib, the brothers over there, the Brotherhood of Black and Gold up there in 717 Bushwick Avenue, came together to organize this right here, right? Which is the sealed transcripts of Dr. Malachi's New York case. So this right here that I'm holding has never been heard before. So whatever you heard in the 17 years of this chaos, you've never heard what I'm holding in my hand right now, ever. Right? This is what the state of Georgia sealed.
So what he said is, what I'm holding costs. Now he's talking about the quote sealed transcripts. What I'm holding costs $15,000 to unseal. You're not going to find the transcript, the sealed transcripts on a Pacer account. That's the point I was making. However, some people did get a hold of them because there were photocopies made and that were circulated. I mean, even York's sister, Waki, she and Ampu went down to the courthouse to get, pay for the copies, because what they had to do, it was a simple process. What they had to do was, it wouldn't cost them anything more than about $1,300 or $13,000, whichever. And all they had to do was have the transcripts that were sealed, had them retranscribed, redacted, to have the names taken out. Okay, having the names taken out so that, because these were minors at the time, have the names taken out, and then have it approved by the United States Attorney's Office. If that's what they did, more power to them. So now we can get the whole story. But York, who had the ultimate decision on this thing, for some reason he didn't want it to be public. But the big conspiracy theory is that the United States government hid the transcripts. They've been under seal, and they charge several $1,000s if you want to get access to them. That's not the case. Why isn't it the case? Because it was the prosecutor, Richard Moultrie, who put in a motion to unseal the documents back in February 22nd of 2006. And I have the pacer. I made a screenshot of the pacer page where you can gain access to it, where you can see it yourself, where Richard Moultrie put in a motion to have the sealed documents unsealed, but in a redacted form, so that certain individuals, their names wouldn't be put out there, because at the time they were minors. And on March the 2nd, 2006, Judge Ashley Royal, he signed off and granted the motion to have the documents unsealed. It's that. So there couldn't be a conspiracy, because if it was, why would he do it? But the problem is Nuwaupians, for whatever reason, be it York telling them not to, or they were just too afraid to put them out to the public, they did not take the time out to get the documents retranscribed they could have hired any attorney. Anybody that had a license as an attorney could have had these documents retranscribed, redacted, and then have it approved, because if you're going to be redacted, it has to be approved by the United States Attorney's Office. And no one has done it to this day. February 22nd, 2006, 373, motion to unseal document redacted trial transcripts by United States as to Dwight D. York. Response to motion due by March 17, 2016. Reply to response to motion due by 4/3/2006. Attachments. Here's one attachment to it. Richard Moultrie, entered 2/22/2006. And right under that, on March the 2nd, 2006, 374. This is a text-only entry, not document issued. Order granting 373 motion to unseal document redacted trial transcripts as to Dwight D. York, signed by Judge C. Ashley Royal on 3/2/2006. Entered 3/2/2006. So we can put an end to this nonsense of some government conspiracy to hide the trial transcripts that many of us have had for years. I've had it for years, along with the trial notes. Too. Mike has the sealed transcripts.
Years.
Ample has the transcripts. I mean, a lot of people had the transcripts.
Even their lawyer, Adrian Patrick, he had the transcripts, and he handed it off to, some of the Nuwaupian people.
Exactly.
They had interviewed him in like 2015, like some Nuwaupians on a radio show, and then he said it himself. He was like, you got to do. He said he had got a copy of the transcript, and he put it off to someone else's hands. So they had it for they've been had it.
So my question is, I know it don't, because I know what's in there. If they claim it leads to his innocence, then why don't they just read them word verbatim? Why don't they use it to prove their points? And that's confirmation they don't have it. Because if they did, I mean, just the PSI alone, outside, I'm just a pre-sentence and investigation report, when it's detailed and account each and every particular individual that was part of the trial as far as the molestation and their statements in detail. I mean, just go through the witness testimony in the PSI, which Chuck has put on his page. I mean, it's right there. I mean, address that. So what if they claim they have something, and again, I know they don't. If they claim they have something there that refutes that, because these things were sealed because it was such a conspiracy, because I remember hearing years ago, the thing was, they were sealed because they didn't want it to get out because it will show the truth of what really happened in the case true. You're right. It does show the truth of what happened in the case. So now, rather than just talk about it and claim and say what you have, all you need to do is just read through it word verbatim, and it'll prove your point. End of discussion. We don't even need to have this discussion here. But myself, Chuck, and those that know, we know what the fuck is in there. And we know if they read that word verbatim from front to back, it would make them look even stupider than they look now.
And if they do put these things out like they're claiming, now the question is, are they going to show all the salacious information that the government had on York and what he did to those children, what he did to the babies, what he did to the black babies?
And it's saying in it, you talking about as young as 4 years old.
Yes. That's in the document.
Clear in there. So why don't we read that in the transcripts and have them go over that?
We're gonna do that tonight.
Okay, anal penetration of 4-year-olds. I mean, can we talk about that? Since you got the transcripts and you know you got this big bomb, let's talk about that. Let's get your viewpoints on that sick, twisted shit. But I guess that's all. You know, that's all conspiracy too. It's all made up. You know, that's the only.
Like the Nuwaupian assassin. You know, recently had Prince York on this channel, and because there was rebuting the responding to the show that's gonna come on tonight with Nikki Lopez and Ruby Garnett. Well, I mean, they did that show like trying to and there was Prince York whole thing was, I have the transcript now. This is something that the victims are afraid of coming out, as if, you know, this we didn't want this coming out because it would show the truth. So like when he was that was the whole premise of the show. So he's flipping through the pages of the transcript and he's picking out certain things. Now, if you look at the transcript, it's a transcript of what? It's a transcript of the trial. So if there's a transcript of the trial, and you know that there's a prosecutor, there's a defense lawyer, and so on and so forth. But there's a process. So there's a process where you get called to the stand, and then you state your statement, and then the defense lawyer gets to cross-examine you.
Right there, it tells you motion to unseal document, redacted trial transcript by the United States as to Dwight D. York. Response to motion due by 3/17/2006. And underneath you have this is a text-only entry, no document issue. Order granting 373 motion to unseal document, redacted trial transcript as to Dwight D. York, signed by Judge C. Ashley Royal on 3/2/2006. There you have it. End of story. So this right here shows you there is no more talk about they were hiding, they were ducking and dodging because they didn't want the truth to come out. No, it's the Nuwaupians who don't want the truth to come out.
They kept the public, they closed the courtroom and they kept the public from being able to come in Dr. York's courtroom.
Now, the problem with that is that wasn't taking place because, as we just read, the transcripts had already been motioned to be unsealed. So as we go down, and listen, if the goal was to make sure the public could not, to make sure the public could see and hear all the evil, as York puts it, why haven't the Nuwaupians published all of the notes and the transcripts? If the government sealed the transcripts to hide what took place at trial, why did the government file a motion to have them made public in a redacted format, which is to remove the names of any witnesses listed as victims and replace their names with a symbol such as, for example, P1, P2, P3, where P stands for person? And here are the facts. On December 30, 2003, the Honorable C. Ashley Royal gave a decision not. I want everybody to focus in on this because this is the core of Nuwaupian rhetoric. Ashley Royal gave a decision not to have the trial of the case closed despite government motions to have the trial closed. Why were they trying to have the trial closed, Mike? Because Nuwaupians were going around trying to tamper with witnesses,
right?
Terrorizing officials, slashing people's car, and even Prince York, he delighted because brothers were going around doing him. You know what I'm saying? His brothers was going around trying to do this and that. Yeah, we know.
Even remember, Chuck, that was one of the main reasons why they moved it to Brunswick, because of all that was going on. That was one of the key reasons they had to get it out of the area, because of all that shit that was going on, and take it down to Brunswick. But
Prince York said that they was killing people's dog and all that too. Like,
yes. So Nuwaupians were going around terrorizing people, not to mention terrorizing the people who were going to be testifying. And we're going to get into witness tampering on the part of York's defense. That we're going to get into that in a minute. But I want to make sure this point is exhausted so we can shut these stupid people down and have them stop coming up with these delusional arguments that there's some grand conspiracy against Nuwaupians. So, as I was saying, on December 30, 2003, the Honorable Ashley Royal gave a decision to have the trial of the case closed despite government motions to have let me try it again. Ashley Royal gave a decision not to have the trial of this case closed despite the government motion to have the trial closed. And I'm going to read what it says here. Court transcript, December 30, 2003, page 2, LL 13 through 19. Quote, I will also tell you that I'm not going to have a closed trial. I have made arrangements to have a closed circuit television set up, and any spectators will be able to watch the trial of this case on the third floor by watching the monitor set up for closed circuit television. And I think that satisfies any public trial requirements under the 6th Amendment or the First Amendment. Judge Ashley C. Royal. So during the course of the trial of this case, there were 40 to 50 spectators viewing the trial on closed circuit television with the witnesses. Everybody's watching it in real time, inclusive of alleged victims and witnesses who would be under the protection of Title 18, the United States Code, Section 3509D. The names and faces of the victims and all the witnesses in the trial of the case were witnessed by the 40 to 50 spectators or members of the general public. Unfortunately, you couldn't get everybody in the general public because the seats were taken up by Nuwaupians.
That's correct.
So, case closed on the BS that the Nuwaupians are the victims of some grand government conspiracy to hide the trial transcripts, and that they put York in a courtroom that nobody knew what was going on. They just had this kangaroo court that was all on York, and nobody knew what was going on. Nobody saw anything when it was a room designated, separated right down the hall, so everybody could watch the trial on closed circuit television. All the evidence was brought out. All the witnesses were brought out. When individuals cried on the stand, that was seen. Everything was heard. So that pretty much eliminates the thing that they were saying that the trial they closed the trial off from the public.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they were in there taking trial notes that they handed off to York's lawyer to compare with the transcripts. Now that's like proofreading and making sure that they're not twisting up and writing something that they didn't hear themselves. And then so now, if there's no dispute again with their trial notes versus the transcripts, if there's no dispute there, because you handed it to the lawyer, and he didn't file no motion saying, oh, well, based on the notes that we got from the trial, this is not written down correctly or whatever. So based on that, you're saying that the transcripts are accurate and true. There's no tampering with it because you was there to see it live and take notes of it as it was happening. So you didn't even dispute or refute the transcript itself. And then, we just showed that at least 50 people throughout the whole trial was able to watch it through a closed circuit TV. And on top of that, take notes. So they have their own notes, and then now they have the transcripts, and and they don't provide none of those. You can't find none of those trial notes or anywhere to be seen that they can provide.
First and foremost, most people are not familiar with what is called an Alford plea. Every single alleged victim, and let's just dissect the case real quick. Every single alleged victim in Dr. York's case that pleaded either against or for him took an Alford plea. I'm going to explain, give you by definition. An Alford plea is a guilty plea. And it's a guilty plea by law, criminal code, whereas by a defendant in a criminal case does not admit to the criminal act or assertions of innocence. Basically meaning, if I plead guilty, I say, you know what, I was wrong, I did something, I'm pleading guilty, or I was right, but I'm forced to plead guilty, whichever it is. Then what that means is, due to the fact that this case is in connection to a larger case that the state can make more money from, then me as a co-defendant, meaning a part associate to this crime, but not in affiliation with the crime, what that means is if I take an Alford plea, they can automatically give me a probation, they can drop all these charges against my name, and basically I have nothing to do with the things that I did. So the question is, who in this alleged case, right? Who in this alleged case took an Alford plea, and what was the crimes that they were tapping out for? Because if you took an Alford plea, that means you admitted that you did a crime, yet the government will protect you if you plead against Dr. York. And that's the conversation.
This is where it gets interesting. Now, what I've done, what I've been successful in doing here is showing you by way of the documents that none of the stuff that they're saying so far that I've been reading here matches up with the facts.
All right, hold on, Chuck. Hold on. Before you go, explain to the people what an Alford plea is.
Okay.
I'm Beth Lowe-Bell. I'm the lawyer for Dateline. When someone's charged with a crime, they respond with a plea. They can plead not guilty, meaning I didn't do it, in which case they'd go to trial. Or they can say guilty, I did do it, so they'd just go to sentencing. Now, in some of our stories, you might hear about this, an Alford plea. In this case, the defendant is not admitting that they committed the bad acts, but they recognize that the prosecution has enough evidence that they could convict them. And when they offer the plea, the judge accepts it and finds them guilty, and they're convicted. Now, why would somebody who maintains their innocence offer this kind of plea? Well, they get something in exchange. They could get convicted of a lesser crime than they ordinarily would, or some other charges against them are dropped, or they could get a lesser sentence. And that's what happened in the case of North Carolina versus Henry Alford, where the phrase comes from. There, because Alford pled guilty, he avoided the death penalty, even though he maintained his innocence.
In a nutshell, that's what an Alford plea is. Now, he said that the victims took an Alford plea. Now, let me make this clear. This is very important, and so I want listen up. This is for the Nuwaupians who are still brain dead, but I'm trying to help you, so open up. No one in the federal case took an Alford plea agreement. Only in state, because there were two. Remember that there was two cases against York. You had the federal and you had the state. Remember, York pled guilty to 108 counts of child molestation in the state case. I don't know how y'all forgot about that. I just put the video back up. And remember, for the record, when it says 100 and when it has 208 counts, does not mean there was 208 people. It's talking about 208 acts that were perpetrated on a victim. I hope that's clear, because some people are saying, where are all the hundreds of victims? Yeah. How can you have all these 200, 300 people? And then because of they took an agreement, they narrowed it or broke it down to 77 counts, where York pled guilty in January of 2003 because when the blood work came back that York had herpes simplex, and several of the victims had the herpes simplex virus as well. Males. Keep that in mind. Males and females had it. That's when he decided to take the plea agreement and shoot for a lighter sentence. And his guilty plea was rejected in the federal because he had pled guilty in the federal and the state guilty. But the judge in the federal case rejected the guilty plea because he did not feel that 15 years would have been enough for such a heinous crime.
And they're still in denial, Chuck, that the state plea is still on record. You all you got to do is go look. They're still in denial about that shit. It's still on record.
You can go right down to the courthouse and make it and get it for yourself. It's right there. But these dummies are too afraid to get up and get the facts. They would rather live in this delusional alternative world that they believe any and everything that's coming out from old audio of York claiming his innocence to a scripted phone call with the administration at the time, or some of these cult members that are running amok today, giving them false information and keeping them away from the evidence that's in the trial transcripts. So getting back to the point. So there was no Alford plea agreement in the federal case. So now let's be clear. In the state case, there was an Alford agreement that was made, and that was with Khadijah Merritt and Chandra Lampkin. Khadijah and Najla. Those two signed an Alford agreement. So Prince Pseudo, he lied. He lied and said that, and I keep on right. He lied, and now this is my challenge to him or any of the people who are jumping on that sect of the Nuwaupian cult. If you jump and follow him, all of y'all, this is what I challenge anybody you all to do. Have Prince York cite the document and the docket, the number that mentions and shows an Alford agreement.
That's it. Problem solved.
So the lie, what I'm saying, so I want people to realize that when the lie is, because I got a message, I'm going to say what lie. The lie is when Prince York said, it's showing a pattern of deception by Prince York, because Malachi York was a habitual liar. We got that on, that's all well documented. So he's inherited that part of the gene that has deception firmly rooted in it. So he purposely went on Nuwaupian Assassin, who's clueless. Nuwaupian Assassin is a complete idiot. He's totally clueless. He don't know what he's talking about. He's just up there to get views, so he doesn't want to, get out and get a job and get in some kind of security. So he wants to have him on the platform. This guy tells a blatant lie saying that the victims, Nikki, Tardik, give me some other name. Eddie, Salam. All of these people took an Alford plea agreement to immune them from prosecution. How can they be immune from prosecution when they weren't even defendants?
Exactly.
They were not defendants. You have to be a defendant in order for that. These idiots don't do research. Nuwaupians do not study. They do study York theology. They do study Nuwaupianism. They are a cult. They are brain dead. They have been brainwashed, and they pass that brainwashed thing on to their own kids. Mm-hmm. That's how messed up this thing is. So, according to the facts, now, all I'm saying is, if I am wrong, all you got to do is present to the public, and not just something that you pulled up. You need to cite the document where it can be pulled up, where a victim that testified in the York trial took an Alford agreement for immunity from prosecution. That would include Nikki Lopez, that y'all are running around saying that, oh, she did that, but there's no agreement on that. Habiba Washington didn't take it. So why are y'all making these lies up against these victims? You're so brain dead, and you love York so badly that that cognitive dissonance is so engulfed in your what little brain cells that are left, because all the brain cells there's no more room for anything to be taken in because it's all been through dogma of Nuwaupianism. So in the future, before any more arguments, before any more quasi debates, ask Prince York, can you please show where it says in the documents that each victim for or against York took an Alford agreement. If you cannot produce that, then you are a liar. Now, on June 2nd, 2003, 2 defendants in the Nuwaupian case pled guilty by Max Tanner, the union recorder. Chandra Lampkin and Khadija Merritt, members of the quasi-religious group known as Nuwaupians, both pled guilty in the Baldwin County Superior Court Friday to 2 counts of child molestation. They were sentenced to 10 years probation and ordered to pay fines and court costs in the amount of $675. Both defendants used what is known as an Alford plea, a type of plea that's used by a defendant when he or she recognizes, based on the evidence against them, it is in their best interest to plead guilty. Fred Bright, Amoji Judicial Circuit District Attorney, was pleased with the sentence, saying several factors were taken into account in the sentencing decision. Number 1, both defendants had already served 7 months in jail. He said, number 2, there was evidence that both of these defendants had been victimized by Dwight York, when they were both minors. Both of them basically had been raised in the Nuwaupian compound. The Nuwaupian leader, Dwight York, pled guilty January 24 in Putnam County Superior Court to 40 counts of aggravated child molestation, 34 counts of child molestation, 1 count of sexual exploitation, and 2 counts of influencing witnesses. York was due to be sentenced in federal court Thursday and in Putnam County Superior Court Friday, but those hearings were delayed. Kathy Johnson, who is believed to be York's main wife, because, York had multiple concubines, and then as a sex addict, he then started preying on the children. She pled guilty on April 30th before a federal judge to the felony offense of misprision of a felony. The offenses carries a maximum sentence of 3 years imprisonment and a $250,000 fine. On the state level, Johnson has been charged with 10 counts of child molestation and 1 count of aggravated child molestation. September 5th, 2002, Johnson's lawyer filed a demand for a speedy trial. Brian Steele argued in a January 16 hearing in Putnam County that his demand for a speedy trial for his client had expired. Pryor denied the motion and Steele appealed the decision. Here's a point of clarity. During the 2004 York trial, it was his defense attorney who attempted to convince the jury that the victims of York were random child molesters, ignoring the reality that York included several teens and female adults in his child sex encounters. York was the leader and directed those in his inner circle to commit various sex acts upon minors, where he would then engage in threesomes with minors and those adults he ordered to participate. For example, at the York trial, the attorney spoke about an individual who, actually 2 individuals who were not charged but sought to leave the impression that in the juror's mind that she was or that they were, referring to her as a child molester, but never acknowledging that Mr. York was the person directing who molested who and brought into the sex ring. The prosecutor objected and made it clear to the jury that these victims who participated in the sex acts were not charged and had no pending charges. So you have to keep in mind that Malachi York pled guilty in both the state and the federal to several counts of aggravated child molestation. This included his main wife, who also pled guilty to aggravated child sexual activity and went to prison. York's co-defendants, Chandra Lampkin, Najla, and Khadija Merritt, also pled guilty to child molestation charges. And they too were victims of York years earlier and followed York's commands to sexually arouse other kids, whereupon York would take and commit the sex acts on these children. And that would include anal, oral, and vaginal intercourse. So the attack game being played by Nuwaupians is to paint those victims of York, who also participated in various sex acts at York's commands, as the real child molesters, totally ignoring York's pleas of guilt in sexually molesting multiple boys and girls. York had these girls and women incriminate themselves as a tactic should they ever speak out about the sex ring on York's property. In other words, if he goes to prison for molesting children, then they would as well. However, the judge in the case made the point that many of these women were children at the time and groomed by York to molest and would not be charged.
If y'all remember the young brother Kush, he was only 9 years old. I'm not going to say his government name because he also was involved with the case. And Kush, right? The government said about Kush, they said they tried to make Kush one of their prime alleged
witnesses.
Yeah. And Kush got up on the stand and said, Dr. York didn't do nothing to me. She's the person who did something to me on the stand in Georgia.
No. Wrong. Kush wasn't even a listed victim. He did not testify at the trial. Kush Martinez was not on the stand at the York trial. That is a lie. So anyone hearing this, confront Prince Pseudo on this point. Ask him, cite the document, the number, the page where it states that Kush Martinez testified at the York trial and made the exact same statements that Prince is alleging that he made.
Tariq Noel, do you remember Exhibit 40, right? From the cross-examination done to you by Adrian Patrick, the representative attorney at the time of Dr. Malachi Z.K. York. Do you remember Exhibit 40, right? Exhibit 40 was found evidence found at the house residence of Tariq Noel. And it was a letter. It was a letter that Tariq Noel wrote to his mother. At the time, Tariq Noel was living with his mother, and he felt so uncomfortable living in the same house with his mother about the situation of what was transpiring that he couldn't even come up to her face to face and speak to her about it. He felt it best to write it in a letter. This is not my words. These are his words, paraphrased. He stated this in the letter, and I got the letter here. That's what I'm trying to pull up and organize, but it's crazy. So it's a letter, and what he's saying in the letter is he's telling his mother that he's sorry. And he's telling her that he's sorry that he told the truth. The government came to him and put pressure on him. And when they put pressure on him, he broke. And he says in the letter, I'm going to read it to y'all in just a second. He, word for word, he actually says he's sorry that he messed up the case. I messed up the case, Ma, because I told the truth. I told the government that Dr. York didn't do nothing to me. This is in his letter. This ain't Prince York words. This ain't Dr. York words. You wrote this, and you didn't write it to the courthouse because you were scared. You wrote it while you was living with your mother to your mother. So you wrote your mother, I'm sorry I messed up the case.
Now, this is where you come in, okay? Because they put out, in addition to this filthy lie that they put out against Nikki, and the lie that they put out on you, because this is what Prince, he really went off on you when he started saying that you had said that you were not molested, and that you did that because you wanted to make sure that your sister and your mother not be arrested, because the government had all this stuff on them, and the only way that they could be set free or not be arrested, or not be taken down, is if you, Tariq Noel, say that you were not molested. Now, what I want to do, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna read from the transcript. Okay, and I'm gonna be coming from the transcript. This is the one that you testified in, Amadi. I need you to pull that interview that I did with the individual who was there with Tariq and York's legal counsel, Manny Aurora, and the investigator for the defense, when they tried to get Tariq to change his statement from his original statement. Could you play that recording that I did? The brother Abdul Bassett from Canada, any old Ansar going way, way back remembers brother Abdul Bassett from Canada. He was been sticking around from them days all the way up until then. And at the time of Tariq coming forward, he was on York's side, and he was, and as part, they were trying to get, he himself was trying to get Tariq to change his original statements. First of all, how do you want to do this, Tariq? You want to lay out the premise, or should we go straight to the interview that I did with him Saturday over the phone?
Yeah, I mean, because basically with the Nuwaupian Assassin show and bringing on Prince York, and then bringing out the transcript as if it's something that the victims don't want out. You know, they use part of my cross-examination to make a point that they was trying to make, and saying that I changed my story, or I said to the lawyers that nothing happened. So they're trying to bring this forth through reading the transcript through the cross-examination. So this is, you know, what we're going to do now is pretty much put everything into perspective of what they was trying to, you know, say by pointing these things out. And we're going to, you know, kind of read it to you from what we have that they didn't mention and stuff like that.
All right, that's clear. So in the transcript, in your testimony, used at the trial, this is your testimony. When Adrian Patrick was cross-examining, he says, now you this is a question to you from Adrian Patrick. Now, you indicated that you had a meeting with Manny Aurora, correct? Yes, sir. 2 meetings, correct? Yes, sir. Now, you mentioned Wilford Buckley, correct? Yes, sir. He lived in Macon, Georgia, correct? Yes. And the meeting took place in Atlanta or Stone Mountain, Georgia, correct? Yes. At a Waffle House, at a Waffle King. Yes. All off of Memorial Drive, right. Now, Wilford Buckley, that's for those who need to know, Wilford Buckley is Taharka. I don't know why I keep getting that
Taharka.
name. Yeah, that was Taharka. Yeah, he was there. And you, I said, now, Wilford Buckley is your uncle. No. Or your sister. He is a child by your sister. He has a child by your sister. Answer, my father is not her biological father, but he raised her from when she was young. So, question, I'm sorry. In that aspect, this is Adrian Patrick talking. Now, she's family. And you said, well, let's just read that here. All right. Now, your real father lives in Atlanta, correct? Yes. All right. Okay. Now, Wilford Buckley picked you up. William Buckley picked up your father from Augusta Drive in Atlanta to pick you up, correct? Answer, I just know from when he was at Atlanta, he had him, my father, in the car. I apologize. This is what he's saying. Question. I apologize. Answer. Okay. Wilford Buckley and your real father were in a car, and you were living with your mother, Barbara Noel, correct? Yes. You came out of the house with Barbara Noel and got in the car with Wilford Buckley and drove to meet Manny Aurora, York's lawyer, correct? I put that part in, man, because everybody knows Manny Aurora was York's lawyer. Yes. All right. You're saying your mother didn't know where you were going, correct? My mother knew I went out, but she didn't know that that was going on. Okay. Tariq, do you see it? Do you have, because you can read it too.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the page though.
That's page 1365.
Okay, I'm on 1365.
Yeah, 1365. But she saw you with Wilford Buckley and your father. You would assume. She saw me spending time with my father. All right. Now, on the second occasion, a similar thing happened. Notice what Agent Patches is doing here. He's not even focusing on the first meeting. He's focusing on the second. Your father was there. Wilford Buckley was there. Yes? Answer yes. You were at your mother's house, Barbara Noel's house. You came out and went back again to meet Manny Aurora, correct? Answer. Are you asking, was I still living? And a question. You weren't living with your mother at
the time. Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah. All right. Let me read Agent Apache, and you answer. Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. We'll do it. I'll do A and you do Q. All right. I'm A. Q. My question is, on the second trip, the same thing happened. The second meeting, the same thing happened. Wilford Buckley, your father, and you went back again to meet Manny Aurora, correct?
Yes.
All right. On the second occasion, when you were speaking with Manny Aurora and the investigator Joel Bigatti, you indicated that you said about the defendant molesting you was not true, correct?
Yes.
Isn't it true that Manny Aurora told you all he is interested in is the truth? That he asked you that numerous times, probably about 15 times, is that all I want is for you to tell the truth? That is all I'm interested in. And you said it did not happen because my mother pressured me to say it. Isn't that true?
Repeat the question.
This is like a play, but this is literally what's the dialogue between
AJ and Patrick. The transcript. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, this comes from the SEAL transcript. Isn't it true that when you met Manny Aurora the second time? Okay, you stated that the defendant did not molest you, correct? That it was not true that the defendant molested you, correct?
Correct.
In some form or fashion.
That's what I stated.
That's what you stated. And Mr. Aurora repeatedly asked you about 15 times that all he's interested in is the truth, and he kept repeating that. All I want you to do is tell me the truth. Now, let me remind you that you were with your father, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you stated, no, it's not true, correct?
On the second day.
On the second day, right?
Yes.
That's what I mean, right?
Yes.
You stated the reason is because your mother, Barbara Noel, pressured you into making statements that the defendant molested you. Isn't that true?
Rephrase that one more time.
Isn't it true that you gave a reason why you said...
the reason I gave?
Yes. Well, question. Well, you told Manny Aurora that the reason why you said the defendant molested you, even though it wasn't true, was because your mother, Barbara Noel, pressured you into saying that.
On the second time.
Yes. I'm only talking about the second time.
I can't recall exactly what I stated because on the second time, what I stated wasn't the truth.
Do you remember saying anything about your mother, Barbara Noel, pressuring you into making the statement on the second time?
That's the same question.
I'm saying at any time, did you say that?
Did I say that?
Yes, on the second time.
Could you rephrase it, because I'm not seeing it as this. I'm seeing it as the same question, because I'm seeing.
All right, let me try to ask you again. At any point, I'm talking about the second trip.
Okay.
When you met with Manny Aurora and the investigator Joe Bugatti, your father, and Wilford Buckley, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. That's your part.
Okay.
We've already established that you've indicated that you're saying that the defendant molesting you wasn't true. You've got that clear, correct, on the second trip.
Yes.
Adrian Patrick is not concerned about the first trip, because on the first trip with the same individuals, when they came to Tariq Noel, they got him to say, what they asked him, were you molested? We want you to say that you were not molested. And Tariq on the first trip insisted and maintained that he was molested by Malachi York. And this is where Abdul Basit comes in, and I want you to play that recording.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, this whole segment is trying to point out, that that there was a situation where I told the lawyers that nothing happened. So that this came up in the court case, and this whole ordeal is when there was, as far as tampering with the witness, there was the Nuwaupian people were trying to get the victims to change their statements. The one that was going to testify, you know, there was every kind of attempt to try to get them free. So some of those avenues led to them trying to, the people you grew up with try to befriend you and try to get you to, change your statement and look at the greater good. So this incident is where, my father and then somebody from the community that I knew, came to me, approached me, before the case. They basically told me that my mom, could get locked up, my sister could get locked up if this goes to trial, because the defense lawyers had dirt on them that they can, to try to use and put them in, that they can go to jail. And then, so they was telling me, I could meet up with their lawyers and basically find a way not to testify. So that was the whole initial, my thoughts of going to meet with the lawyers, because they was like, oh, I'm not even telling you all the stuff that they got, but just this and that. These are the reasons that they could be arrested if it goes to trial. So then, then it was like, well, if I don't testify, then they're not gonna they're gonna discredit everybody else and they won't have a case. So it was like, by doing this, then I'll avoid them from being my sister and my mom from being locked up if this goes to trial based on the evidence or whatever dirt that they thought that they had on them. So the meeting was to go meet up with the lawyers and try to find a way not to testify. That was the what the impression I was under. So when I went there, we met at the restaurant and everything like that, and they started talking to me, asking me my name and all this stuff, and then they basically started an interview process, and I'm not aware, like, so I just told them the truth. I just gave them the answers to what they was asking me.
The first meeting, they were not satisfied with your answers.
Yeah, because after the meeting, we come back in the car, and then like Sahak is basically saying like, yo, like he came at me like, oh, like, not came at me, but he was he was like basically like I went in there and did it on purpose. Like I went and told the truth on purpose, like to just like I wasn't going along with the plan and this and that, because they didn't, they try to like fearmonger me into doing it, but they really didn't direct me on what to say particularly. They just probably assumed like I knew I was supposed to lie and not make it up. That's not what I was going there to do. I was going there to find a reason or a way for not to testify or to get out of the court case, because like at that time I was subpoenaed to go to court. So like I'm meeting up with the lawyers to see if there's a way I don't have to testify. Not saying nothing happened to me, nothing like that. So when they interviewed me, I told them the truth. So then Tahaka and basically, you know, my dad was there, but Tahaka basically let me know, like, hey, like, you gotta say nothing happened. This is the way you gotta do it. So then we met up with them the second time, and then that's what we was kind of reading from and all that.
Yes, and for the record, what this amounts to, and I don't know if people are catching this, and it should have been brought out of the trial, is that Tariq Noel is a victim of coercion by the Nuwaupian Wilford Buckley, a.k.a. brother Taharka. That's witness tampering.
We actually could have pressed charges on him, but you know, because he has a you know, children by my sister, like, or my stepsister, you know, so like through just with you know, just because, you know, like he has children with people in my family, you know what I'm saying, like we didn't, like my family didn't go after him, you know what I'm saying, but we could have.
Yeah.
You know, and because that was a witness tampering.
Exactly, and that's part of why Abdul Basit wasn't called to the stand, because that would have been something brought out as well, and then somebody would have to explain, well, why is Malachi York's attorney meeting with a victim and trying to get them to change their statements and even bribing you by giving or offering you baseball tickets?
Yeah, because they offered me baseball tickets, and because I don't really, like, I'm not really into like baseball like that, so I didn't accept them. Like, I was like, nah, I'm not, you know, I'm not really, you know,
okay.
I wouldn't even go, you know.
Okay, Amadi, can you play that?
Okay, what happened after the old man got arrested and stuff, and they realized that Tariq was involved and he's one of the guys who's going to be a witness? They contacted me, right? I guess the old man sent a message to me, going, you know, that's my son. And one of the brothers came and got me and said, well, you know, they need me to go to get in touch with Tariq and see if I can get him to renege his statement and, you know, see that these things never happened to him. So, Brother Tahaka, that was my son-in-law at that time, but he was married to my daughter. Yeah. So, at that time, I didn't have a car, so I think one of the brothers come pick me up, and me and Taka was cool, so we went over at Tariq's, at his mom's house, and got him and told his mom, I'm taking him out for a while. She really didn't know what was going on. So we took him out and we showed exactly what, some of the stuff when they said that, well, Taka did most of the talking, you know, and he was just, you know, we started telling him, you know, like things like what he was saying, like they had some stuff on his mom, and if he said that nothing happened, then they will have to go to court and this and that, things like that, you know. So, just hold on for a second. Yeah. We have on a phone call, y'all. Just be quiet, okay? Yeah. So it's before that, they wanted I'm trying to figure out which time, because I did run out to the office, the lawyer's office, Manuel and Garland. Yeah. His name. Yeah. I went out to the office. I'm trying to figure if I had talked to Tariq before that, or if I went down to the office after. But I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna rake my mind to figure out if I was down there first, or if I had talked to Tariq first. But all I'm saying, when we spoke to him, we organized with them to meet us. I think it was somewhere close to the house where Tariq was living. So I think Manuel was there, and I'm not sure who was. I think I'm not sure if the investigator was there at that time. I'm not sure. I think he was there the second time, but I'm not sure he was there the first time. So, I mean, me and Tariq, well, we wasn't really, he really didn't never know me. You know, he only met me, I think, once in the line when his mom told him. I told him of his dad, so we never really had no relationship. So, when I went over there, I tried to convince him. I said, your mom is not going to get no. If you say that this stuff didn't happen, your mom wouldn't get in trouble. Which means I knew, right? I knew what our mission was. We knew what our mission. Our mission was to go there to convince him to change his story, right? Mm-hmm. To tell him that if you said that these things ever happened, then his mom would never get no trouble and stuff like that. So that's basically what we did. But what happened when we met with them the first time? Well, we didn't actually sit in with them. We just sat on a table next. So when they was asking a question, he told him exactly what happened. He did tell him the truth, right? The first time. So when after that we talked to them, they said, well, this is what he said. Then they said, oh shit. So I went back again and get him to come back a second time to tell him, well, that's not what you were supposed to tell him. You're supposed to tell him these things never happened.
So the first time that y'all sat down with Manny Aurora and York's legal counsel, which I don't think is something that wouldn't that be considered like tampering with a witness?
Well, I mean, at that time, nobody knew that that's what we was doing. But at the time, that's why they called me in. Because remember, I've been in the community since 1978. So that was my whole life. All my kids was born and raised in it. So when I hear, my understanding was like this. This is what I was thinking. We was always taught everything was about a mission. Right. Everything was about a mission. So I'm like, the ones of the few ain't go outweigh the ones of the many. Which means like if 10 people, you know what I'm saying? If you have a choice of saving 500 people and 10 people, I'm saving the 500. See? So at that time, just like all of us in the beginning, we were all for, trying to prove that these things never happened. That's a lie. That's how we felt at the time. And at that time, I was closely linked with the community myself. That was my whole life,
Yeah. So the first time y'all sat down with York's legal counsel, yes, Tadic told the truth that they were molested. That let me make this clear that he was molested.
Yes, he did. That's what he told him. But you see, we wasn't actually sitting on a table with him. But after we asked him what happened, well, because when we spoke to him before, we tried to tell him, listen, this is what you got to tell him, right? But for some reason, when they came and spoke to him, he just told them the truth. He just told them what happened, that he was molested and all the details. So when they told us about that, we said, no. This we gotta correct that. So we went back again a second time. I'm not sure it was the next, but we got in touch with him a second time. And this time, the investigator was with him, and that's when he told them that it wasn't true and he just made it up because so and so. And that's what the story we told him to tell them, and that's what he told them.
So let's be clear. So the second time. Well, initially it was designed to get Tadic to say that he was not molested, correct?
Yes.
All right. So the first time Tadic didn't do that, he maintained that he was molested.
Yes.
Okay. So the second time y'all got together and tried to get him to change it, which he in turn did, and that's when all this paperwork was put up.
Yes. I guess that's what they're talking about when he said that he was molested and that he was not molested. That's the second time. We met with them twice.
Okay.
We met with them twice.
Do you remember where you met?
Oh man, no, I don't. I want to ask him about that. I know he was living on oh gosh, it's between I think it's Snap. No, it wasn't Snapfinger.
Yeah, never mind.
It was similar in the outskirts of Atlanta. Let's put it more known.
Yeah, okay.
But I think we met in a restaurant or McDonald's or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what it was. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think the second time when the investigator was there, he had offering some tickets, baseball tickets or something. Right? He gave me some baseball tickets.
Yes.
And I think that's what caused me not to testify, because I was going to testify.
You were going to testify on behalf of who?
I was going to testify on behalf of Malachi, because I was going to tell them how Tariq told me, right? And I was going to back up what the conversation he had with the lawyer the second time, right? That he was unmolested. You see? So what happened? As a matter of fact, it was in Brunswick. I was in the courthouse. I was in the witness room, and the court case was going on. So one time we had a break for lunch. So when we went to lunch, I think it was what's the lawyer's name?
Agent Patrick.
Agent Patrick. So I asked him. I said, "Listen now. So give me an idea. What's some of the questions you're going to ask me? Because we never when we was down in the house in Brunswick,
hey, Chuck, I sent it already.
Okay. Let me go ahead.
Yeah.
One of the brothers' house, when Patrick was in the sister's house, a bunch of us went over there. There was so many people. He never really had time to go through all the testimony with everybody. So nobody really had time to really to prepare for a witness. So I asked him, I said, well, give me just some of the questions you can ask, because we never really discussed anything. I told him what happened, but he never really told me, well, we went over and questions and answers of how to approach this. And that's what it was down in the place. It's like nobody was really prepared. Just a bunch of people wanted to come and give testimony, but nobody was really, they never had time to prep the witnesses.
Yeah.
So I think when they went back to court, they didn't call me for some reason. After I found out that it came up in the cross-examination with Tariq, where the guy had offered him some tickets, right? The investigators had given some baseball tickets. So that was something like a bribe. So I guess I'm assuming that's the reason why they didn't call me. Nobody never said why they didn't call me.
They gave you baseball tickets?
No, they gave Tariq.
Okay.
The investigator. They offered him some baseball tickets.
Do you know who that investigator was?
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but he's on the he's in the transcripts.
Joel Bigatti.
They say that even when Prince York said last night that when they met with the lawyers met with the investigator, I forget the guy's name, but it's all the information is in the transcripts.
Okay.
It should be it's in the transcripts.
Yeah, I'll go over it. Yeah.
So after that, now I guess that was it. So we just had him on record saying that it never happened, and that's what we really wanted to get. Right? Him on record.
There it is, right there.
I was listening to Prince York last night. They're trying to turn it around, right? To say that that's what he said, but they never discussed they never discussed there was 2 times that they met, and there was 2 different instances. Because when he told them already the truth the first time, when we get to realize, when we talk to the lawyer, they realize that this is what they say to us, and we tell them we're gonna bring him back.
Yeah.
We brought him back again the second time. So actually, Manny and them knew what was going on, because he told them they have his statement from the first time and you have a statement from the second time. It's two different statements. I don't know if they ever brought out the first statement.
I don't think so.
They probably brought out the second statement, but we met with them twice.
Mm.
You know, we met with them twice. And it's like, you know, like everything else, and that in the beginning when I heard it, I mean, in my mind, I never had a relationship with Tariq.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just like, I was still done with the mission. I was like, you know, and I guess they figure if they knew I was his dad, so they sent to get me, so I could get him to change his testimony.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that was my mission. That's why I tried to do. That's what we actually did, because we got him a record to say. But it's what's missing there is they realize that's why when he wrote the note to his mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was saying that he figured that he messed up because, you know, even though he tell him the truth the first time, the second time he tell him it didn't happen.
Oh, I see. And they're using, and that's where they're using. They're omitting what initially took place, and they're promoting the setup which took place after the fact.
Yes.
Yeah. So this you know what this amounts to, and I mean, I'm not a legal scholar on this, but it sounds like they even though the trial had not taken place yet, but this is like they were tampering with a witness, or at least a potential witness. Because if he is a witness of what took place, and then they're coercing him to change his statement and even offering bribes, this is witness tampering.
Well, that's exactly what happened, because my mission was to get him to change his statement. You see?
Yeah.
My mission, because he had already talked to the what do you call it? He had already the grand jury.
Uh-huh.
I think they had already talked to the grand jury.
Mm-hmm.
So my mission was to. That's why they come and get me. My mission was to get him to change it. And I mean, even though me and him never had a relationship, but I went up in there like, you know, hey man, I need to talk to you, you know.
Yeah.
You know, because remember I only met him when he was like 9 or 10. At that time, he was a little older. He was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
When, as a matter of fact, he was going to high school when I went to visit him.
Yeah.
You see, he already left the land and everything, and he was living with his mom.
Yeah. I see.
So, you know, it's like it's
wow.
You know,
okay. Don't lose that point, but I just want to let you know that I have another phone right here, and everything that when I said go ahead is being recorded, because I want to use this because I want to play it on the air to clear up the misinformation that Prince York was coming from. He's using the second interview,
right,
which was purposely designed to get Tariq to change his original statement that he was sexually molested by Malachi York and that he did witness others in the process.
Well, we never really had a discussion about him witnessing it, because anything our whole thing was about, we never really got into all of that. My whole thing was like trying to tell him, listen, you know what I'm saying? Your mom and them was going to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Did you initiate that statement?
No, I think Tahaka did.
Tahaka Bay. I'm sorry, wrong name.
Yeah, Wilford Buckley's his name. They call him Tahaka.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
He's the one, but once the statement was made, I actually expanded on it, because remember we both was there, and cause he was there too. But I noticed that most of the time they always talk about him. But you see, he knows that he can't tell me he was there and he knew what happened, so he cannot. And I know he cannot. He can't come and tell me in my face that this man. Oh no, is this no? He knows what's going on, because he know the reason why we was there is to try to get him to change his statement.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like most of the dads and moms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all try to get our kids to change their statements and say things didn't happen because because it was all about a mission.
Right.
It was all about the mission. That was always in the forefront.
Okay. So being as though that is what you all tried to do. At what point did you I guess accept the reality of what really took place?
Well, it was actually years after. Because I've never really, it was because remember after when I left, with the case was going, and I was I didn't have to testify no more. I just left. I left all of them. You know, and then as I said, I never really had a relationship with Tariq, so it took. It's all that time went by with the case and everything. I was never really involved in anything, and I just stepped back from everything. And what really triggered me off one day, I started following this stuff on the social media, and I think he was. I think is it. I heard him on one of the programs, and I could just hear in his voice that listen, this kid is just. He just holding back himself, trying to, he's telling people like this, man, he's speaking up for himself, and I don't know why something just hit me. I heard it in his voice, I just heard it in his voice, and it just triggered off something in me, and I called him. I told him that, I was sorry that I actually, put him through all that and try to get him to change his statement and stuff, I tell him I apologize to him because I realized that, because I heard him, he was just trying to, everybody was telling him that this stuff never happened. And you can hear it in his voice, in his tone, and in his expression, that how the hell are you going to tell me that stuff this didn't happen to me? This did happen to me, and nobody was listening. And he was all over different social media expressing that, And it just one day I was listening to him, and it just hit me that he was, and I said, man, you don't have to fight again. You don't have to fight alone no more, man. And then I start to actually initiate a relationship with him. Because prior to that, I had no relationship with him, And it's after sitting with him, after I sat with him one-on-one, and he explained to me everything that happened, is when I just broke down, because I can wow, man, I was so blinded all these years. I couldn't really, I just apologized and was sorry that I didn't hear all the stuff he was saying, But right now, what I'm trying to do is build a relationship with them, because the reality is that what people don't realize, most of these kids, went through all this stuff, and then there's no support for them.
Right.
Because most of the elders and everybody who've been around them, most of them, it appears they don't believe what happened. And nobody is actually there to help them go through this. They go through some serious stuff. I've been molested for all these years.
Right.
They go through some serious psychological things,
Yeah.
And
so
to know that we all at the beginning, even for myself, because at that time I didn't see it like that. It was all a mission for me.
Right. Well, I think this is your statements are critical, because you were there, Manny Aurora, and other members for the New York defense were actually trying to get Tariq to sign an affidavit, change the statement to work in their favor, which in my mind, and I'm sure I can contact attorneys, that is blatant witness tampering. Okay, being as though this is recorded, and like I said, I'm going to have it played on the air, just because Tariq is going to be there, so he'll be able to substantiate other portions of it. Just for the record, if you don't mind, could you just state who you are?
Okay.
No, you don't have to give your birth. No.
No. I know the name that everybody knows. My name is Abdul Bassett.
Abdul Bassett.
Everybody know me with Abdul Bassett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Any
old answer would know who you Abdul Bassett is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, everybody know Abdul Bassett. You can put in Canada, and everybody know that it had two Abu Bassett in the community. One Abu Bassett Guyana and Abu Bassett Canada. So anytime somebody say Abu Bassett Canada, they know I am because me and a few other brothers, we're the ones who started the community in Montreal, Canada in 1978. We're the ones who started the community in Canada. So anybody who's from 1978 on, brothers are there from the elders, they know me.
Oh yeah.
They know me.
Yeah.
So that's why I look at some of the videos and stuff, and I see some of the elders there, and I know that they know that. I mean, in the beginning, like for instance, to be honest with you, we knew that that the woman was messed with the women and our wives and stuff. We knew that, but I never really knew. I never heard it among our conversation that he was messing with the kids. We didn't know that till recent, till it came out.
Yeah.
But we knew that he was having relationships with the women. We knew that, But as far as the kids, I couldn't stay here and say what he had. In 1980s or 70s, we knew there was ever a discussion among the brothers that he met. We knew he was messing with. We knew a lot of our wives passed that, but it wasn't like that. It was never with the kids. But I'm like this. I mean, like adults is one thing because adults they can make their own decisions to decide if whatever they want to do, if they want to lay with you or not. But a child, 4 years and 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. For someone to manipulate somebody at that age, man, that's cruelty. You know what I mean? And there's no way that once you sit down and you reason out, there's no way you can actually condone that. And for many of the elders who's out there, if they take a time to go and they can meet with any of the kids in their home who was molested and talk to them. That's what they should do. You know what I mean? Instead of how should I put? Instead of really trying to condone things or fight for try to prove that it didn't happen. If you take a minute to sit with any of the kids in there, right, who was involved in this, sit down and talk to them. And because listen, we raised those kids. These kids are ours.
Right.
We're the ones who took them to school and went out there and paid and provide for them. And we walked them to school, we protect them, So those are all
I remember.
kids.
Yeah, I remember.
All we gotta do, my message to the elders is just sit down one day and just talk to one or two of the kids. Those are your kids, and you talk to them. Or you talk to one of your children and ask them, say, what really happened? Tell me. But none of them took the opportunity to do that. But they're quick to say that it never happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that because as my son was involved, but I'm actually, they can talk to him anytime. And most of them know him. He's available. They can come and talk to him. And then, when they finish talking to him, let them make a decision. Or talk to any of the other kids. There's a lot of brothers who's in my time, kids in them was involved in that.
Right.
You make a arrangement, you go sit down, that's all our kids, sit down and talk to them.
That's right. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you were able to clarify and clear this thing up because now we got a better picture of how that manipulation took place. And wow, I didn't know that Manny Aurora was involved in that.
He was there.
Yeah.
He was there. Yeah, he was there the 2 times that we met. He was there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the first time that the investigator was there. I know the second time he was. But I'm trying to figure. At that time, they used to live. It's right off of 20. We right off of 20 past Conyers of You know, but Frank is gonna know.
Yeah.
You probably remember when we went and had the discussion, you know.
Right.
I think we went to a little McDonald's, some little place like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did belong to money to the lawyers in the office. At some point in time, you know, I was down there, you know.
Yeah. You don't have any like paperwork from any of that stuff, do you?
No, the only thing I remember having was from the
trial transcripts.
Yeah, and I gave it to Tahaka. That was way back. That was when everything was going on.
Yeah.
I was given a copy of the transcripts, and I gave it to Tahaka. I'm not sure. Probably he's the one. Maybe that's how they was able to have a copy of it. Tahaka got it from me. I'm the one who gave him that.
Yeah.
I'm the one who gave him a copy of the transcripts.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? You know, and he, I would sit down and talk to him anytime, but he can't tell me in my face what I'm saying is not true.
Oh yeah.
You know that part is true. But he was there, and you know that was something that we was assigned to go and try to get to change his statement, and that's what that was our mission. That's what we did, you know. Because as I said at the time, it was all about the mission, you know. It was like you sacrifice, you know at that time it was like you sacrifice the son for the mission, and that's just how it was, but it took a long while after to realize that because at that time all the facts was out. Now when all the facts, when you see truth and facts, okay, they deny it. You know what I mean? Because I still listen to some of the things that they're saying. They pretended like there was never a state trial. Like they when I listen to them on the social media, they say like they pretend like there was never a state trial, like he never pleaded guilty in a state trial, like that never happened.
Okay.
And what Prince York was trying to say yesterday, well, he's not in jail for what do you call it, child molestation. But he's in jail for but one of the charges was transporting minors over state line for the purpose of sexual intercourse. And if you have sex intercourse with a minor, what is that? What is that?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't understand how with a right reason they don't understand simple things like that.
Yeah, it's cognitive dissonance. They're just trying to they're so delusional. They can see their facts right there in their face, and because they're so blinded by this thing, they're resorting to any possible thing they can in their subconscious, bring it to the forefront to try to justify or deny what took place.
Yeah, and I'll be glad to talk to any of the elders. Elders that know me, I will welcome talking.
Absolutely. So
I would welcome talking to any of the elders because if me and you slept in the same place for 20 years, in the same room, on the same floor, we know each other. So you can't run no bullshit on me.
Right.
And I can't run no bullshit on you. So when we talking truth,
Right.
So I would welcome talking to anyone then because it's about, okay, it was always about the kids. It's still about the kids.
Yeah.
So let's talk to the children. All of them who was molested. Let's talk to them. And those are our children. So let's talk to them.
Yeah.
And get the truth from them instead of specs. So someone else has to speculate to tell us something or try to change stories. No, you talk. That's all the kids.
Yeah.
Or let's organize and talk to them.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is because the brother got back with me. So like I said, we want to do the show after that documentary concludes, and I'm gonna reach out to you. Hopefully, we can be able to touch bases and maybe you can come on.
Okay. I mean, anytime you see, you can get the type of job I do. I'm basically there by myself after 4 in the afternoon, so I probably could tune into anything.
Okay. Well, let me say I don't plan on it being no 4 or 5 hour thing. You know, just get right to the nitty gritty, right to the point.
At this time it don't matter. But if anybody pose questions, you know, concerning that, I would sure love to clarify that and answer, because
like in the chat.
For instance, nobody knew that I was ever involved in that. Because it was never, you know, I was actually in the witness room downstairs waiting to be called, but I was never called. You know, so, you know, I guess because they realized, I think what was ever happening upstairs, they realized that because of the investigator messed that up by offering Tariq some baseball tickets. So, you know, then I will have to acknowledge that also. That happened. So
So that's more than likely why they didn't call you, because that would be witness tampering.
Right. So that's why they couldn't put me on. That was my understanding after, because once that came up, I was a witness to that, because I think he showed it to me, told me about it. So then I said, well, yeah, he did tell me about this, because I'm telling you about it now, because you know he had in his cross-examination that came up when he told them about that. No?
Okay.
So they can put me there now as a witness to acknowledge that, then they would go down as they was trying to bribe him.
Right. Wow.
You know?
That's deep.
So,
okay.
So that's why they pulled me back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you know I would have to with that would have jammed them from there. But for them to come and use a statement now saying that that I was there and you know and that he told them it never happened. Okay, but then they told you part of the story. They didn't tell you the first part of the story because we went there twice. You know, so we had to actually convince him a second time. But the first time, I guess when he went there and you know, talking to the lawyer, he don't know these people. And you know, when they talk to me, just tell them the truth. So we had to come back and say, no, man, that's not what you got to tell them. You said it never happened, and the second time he did. So that's
okay, Marty, can you hear me?
But they're not giving you the whole story. They're giving you part of the story.
Got it. Okay.
And I was sure like that Tahaka was there. Why don't they bring him on? They can bring him on, and they bring me on, and then we can straighten it out because one of us was there.
Yeah, how would if I can get in contact with him? Yeah, I'd ask him.
He wouldn't come on.
Yeah.
Because you know, then he would have to acknowledge that we did brought Tariq twice to the lawyers. But you know, now is not time to be. You know, that's what I'm saying. You know, I'm willing to talk to any of the others, but then you got to tell the truth to me.
Yeah.
You can't be no bullshit.
Okay.
You know, because I was there, he was there, so let's come on the air and tell the people what really happened.
Got it. Wow.
So, I can meet anyone. I don't care. I'm willing to talk to anyone of them. Let's talk.
Well, like I said, I'm gonna reach out to you on Monday and see if we have the time, or maybe if you can even bring some clarity in the chat, whichever.
Yeah, well, I'll be available. Okay. I'll make myself available anytime after 4.
After 4, got it.
For those listening, that was a witness who corroborates what was stated in the transcripts that Adrian Patrick was trying to avoid, which was the first meeting that they had where Tariq Noel had stated to Manny Aurora, the inspector, that in front of Abdul Basit that York did molest him. And it was their job to try to get him to change his testimony and sign an affidavit saying that it did not happen, and to say that, and when they read that part about where, I messed up the case because he lied for Manny Aurora and York's attorneys, which is what they set out to get him to do. And once they had him do it, then they felt they had incriminating evidence that, well, now you can't trust nothing he says. So that right there shows you how dirty, the dirty tricks that Malachi York's attorney and them were using to try to jam up these victims and these witnesses to try to get this man free when you know, he was up to his eyeballs in guilt. I rest my case.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's definitely not to point out that the truth is the truth is the truth. So like, there's no need to keep defending yourself and keep saying, oh, this, I am telling the truth. Like, that's not even. This is just for documenting purpose and to point out the lies that the people are saying, exactly. And to kind of have some because now if you look at it in a Nuwaupian term versus Nuwaupians are supporting York and want to see him free, and then there's people that are speaking the truth that because of the truth he's locked up. So there's two different opposing sides. So like. So there's a need to correct this information that the people are believing, because there was a documentary that aired tonight, and before it even aired, they was doing propaganda to prep their people to even view it. So like they need the counter information, they need the whole information and the factual information, so that they're not continuously for all these years led along and kept being lied to. So you know when they tune into this and try to rebuttal this and they're still getting the information that's rebuttaling them and pointing out how they lying. Like Prince York and on Nuwaupian Assassin channel, when he made the video, 80% of what he said was a lie. And the 20% that he was saying that was true was not on topic. It was related to something else. Yeah. So you're presenting information that you're putting to the people as truth, and then you didn't even have everything prepared. So you might have just got it, looked over it, and want to do a show about it. You didn't have it prepared, which means you don't even know it inside out. You don't know, like you don't know what you're talking about, you know. But you still feel that, you know, this is the information you're gonna bring to your followers. So it needs to be corrected. For that purpose, because it's being addressed. Because that's what I was saying earlier. If you look at the Nuwaupian and the opposing side, like, you got to see what work they do, what evidence they bring, how do they counteract what they claim is truth. So if they're saying all this stuff, but they're not providing documents, they're not providing any kind of resources about it. So it's just all talk. But then even if they could say we're saying stuff, but we're saying but we're providing the evidence, the documents. We're providing all this with the information that we're saying along with the truth, and that's what you should expect. That's what you should expect from people who are giving you the truth, is that they are going to continue to be there when you're lying.
And finally, to all those parties concerned in defense of Nicole Lopez, this is for you.
you.